Okay. Good day, everyone. On behalf of the Katerina Belaruska Foundation, I would like to welcome all of you to today's online webinar within the project Girls Empowerment Together Through Football. This initiative is being implemented in cooperation with three organizations: Goal in Life, GDA Sport, and Katerina Belaruska Foundation with the support of UEFA Foundation for Children. Our shared mission to empower girls and youth through sport, education, leadership, and international collaboration. We are very happy to see participants join us from different communities and countries today. Sport is a much more than competition. It is a powerful tool for confidence, inclusion, resilience, leadership, and social change. Through this project, we aim to create safe and inspiring spaces where girls can grow, lead, and believe in their own potential. Today, we are especially honored to welcome two incredible speakers whose work and personal journeys continue to inspire people around the world. Tanja Ferkau is a strategy and sport development expert with more than 30 years of international experience. She is founder of non-profitable organization Impact and Sports 20, and her work focuses on social transformation and creating positive social change through sport. Tanya has been actively involved in international initiatives that connect sport, leadership, sustainability, and community development, demonstrating how sport can become a platform for long-term impact. We are also proud to welcome Karishma Ali, a Pakistan footballer, activist, and founder of Karishma Ali Foundation. Through her work, Karishma empowers girls and youth, young women through sport and education, especially in communities where girls often face significant barriers to participation and opportunity. Thank you both for being with us today and for sharing your experience, insights, and inspiration with our participants. After the speaker's presentation, participants will also have opportunity to ask questions and join the discussion, so we encourage everyone to stay engaged throughout the session. And thank you to everyone joining us. We hope this conversation will inspire new ideas, meaningful discussions, and future opportunities for youth in sport and beyond. Let's begin. Tanya, please welcome, and this online stage is yours.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for your kind words and the warm welcome. Yes, I'm very, very happy to be here and speak about something that actually, probably describes a huge part of my life, how actually sport can help us transform society. And I'm very happy to guide you through part of my journey, and I will be very much looking forward later to give you some of the really good examples. But why are we actually here? What is the thing that actually probably we all see, but we're a little bit afraid of admitting, is that we basically have major threats to our world. Our world actually is in multiple crises and multiple times in flames, no matter if we look into the topic of climate or nature or biodiversity, but especially also if we look into equality, especially into inequality, and the topic of health. And I think these four major threats to our world also do affect the world of sports, definitely. And so, since sport is part of that, maybe sport can also be part of the solution. And I think today we'll try to speak a lot about solutions because sports has a very, very interesting lever. So maybe a quick intro where I actually come from and why I see sports so much as a lever. I have founded Sports 20 with a wonderful partner, the founder of Sports for Future, Stefan Wagner, and we founded it 3 years ago. And our goal is to actually use the SDGs, and the SDGs actually have very many SDGs that actually play the role of working for better conditions for women and girls. And we think the SDGs are a key role for a transformation of the world. So this is kind of our baseline. And The second baseline we have is that we work all over the world with a lot of great people. And you will see on the very right hand of the slide, you will also see Karishma in the slide because she is one of our great activists in the Asian area. So we couldn't do any of what we're doing without the international network we're having. We all, and I basically would say really all that are involved in Sports 20 are really convinced that sport has the power to change things. Why is that so? Because sport actually is moving billions. Really in terms of money, in terms of spectators, but also in terms of people actually doing sports. And we will speak a lot more about that doing sports thing. But I think that also the two other areas are really important because if you are in a niche, it's always difficult to drive transformation. The more you're out of a niche, the more easy it becomes. And we think that actually that unifying power sport has actually also comes with a duty. It is a gift that sport can change the world, but it also really comes with a duty. So let's really speak about the duty also sport has because it can really highly impact the world we're currently living in and really drive transformation. We do think and we do know that sport is so much more than a simple physical activity. It is so much more because in so many areas, very close to us or very far away, it is so much more a social or a cultural space. It is a space where people come together. It is a space where people can identify with, where they get confidence, or where they just feel home because it provides something they don't have around other areas. So this environment sport actually can create is extremely important for personal development of people. Sport can actually set something free other areas can't. Schools try, but very often they do not succeed. So when we think about what this actually can do, we think self-confidence mainly is being driven by experience, interaction, and feedback. These are three main pillars that actually kind of set free how people can thrive, how people can grow, and how people really can develop. And if we look into how sport actually can build self-confidence, I would say it's basically these three areas. It's the experience, yeah, because you can physically experience something that maybe you haven't experienced elsewhere so far. It is the challenge part because it makes you thrive, because you want to achieve something, and it creates a safe space where you can really test out and try out things. Then there is this belonging part, this kind of home part. You probably all know so many, especially kids, but also I think a lot of adults that really refer to their sports place as a kind of second home because this is a very, very important place to them. And then it's about competence and activity. So this is where we all can create impact and where we can really make people thrive. And what we very often overlook is that sport in general, and I will later really come to the part where the girls and the women come into play, but sport in general is not the doing good part. It is sport being meant in the right way that is driving the transformation. Because it can also have a couple of things that can be difficult. Sport can also be highly competitive and exclude. It can create such high pressure that people crack under the pressure, even in an amateur field. And it can therefore really reinforce insecurity. Yeah. So if we really think about what the sport can do, it can only do it if it's being done the right way and if we create the right role models and if we really understand what our community is looking for and then play in that field of what the community is looking for. So we know that making the difference actually is creating inclusive environments. And here let's start really talking about the girls. What does that really mean, an inclusive environment? It really means that it needs to be an environment where girls and boys are being seen the same way and the specific needs of the girls no matter what it could be. For me, one of the strongest examples is that in many areas in the world, the girls between, let's say, 11 and 14 stop doing sports. Why is that so? For me, it was a question I couldn't answer. This is so because they don't have periodical products. Yeah. So that's why they do sports before and maybe later in their life, but very often it stops when they're 10, 11, 12. This is a shame, and this is the first part of not being inclusive and not trying to be equal for everybody. I think we also need to always see how group dynamics work. Yeah, especially in mixed groups, we often have group dynamics that can be really difficult for girls. Yeah, and then we have the physical area where very often we have that strong discussion. Is it really good that they play together? And yes, on one hand, it's really good they play together because that is that intergender thing that is also really important to learn. But on the other hand, often this is very excluding for the girls if it is a contact sport or a tough sport where you just physically are not getting to the level the boys are because they're just stronger. It has nothing to do with they play better. It's just they're physically stronger. So it is really the key question, how we can build that confidence. And it is really very much about how we can deliver that and how we actually can create these safe spaces and these areas where it really is a thriving, safe space for the girls. And if we want to really dig a little bit deeper into how that can work, it is really very much about have simple rules, make it easy to join. Don't have a lot of barriers because barriers keep people away, and especially girls and women. Focus on the progress. Don't focus so much on the comparison. I think that is a very much inequality pushing topic. Yeah. So if you're always comparing men and women, boys and girls, you do create a problem in sport. This is not a smart way of trying to make the girls do a good job in their sport. Try to create a team feeling and create that safe environment where everybody feels heard, where everybody is above harsh criticism, and where especially the ones that have maybe a lower voice in society can also be heard, because sport can be that area where these voices can be heard, and where via sport certain, let's say, opinions, voices, and strong feelings can very, very well be addressed and made as one of the major things to really societal transformation. And I think last but definitely not least, it is always about giving a positive story. Yeah, sport is not so much boosting self-confidence by being highly competitive. It's more about opening worlds. And I think the example Karishma is giving us later is really about, speaking how can we create these incredible spaces for the girls, and how does that then really impact their lives and hopefully for many generations, especially female generations after them. And one thing I would like to share with you, and there we really come to the difference between the girls and the boys. You see me here, it's a horrible picture, but it shows one thing. I'm surrounded by girls. It is in Rio last autumn. We had a great project. Karishma knows the player. There are a wonderful organization, a martial arts coalition. They do basically taekwondo, and sport is their driver to get the kids off the street. We are here directly in a favela, and the idea is to get the kids off the street, teach them taekwondo and teach them certain values, but basically to give them, let's say, access to education. Yeah. And trying to open them to a world. And what you see here in that picture, and that's really interesting. And there is a difference between the girls and the boys because they do it for everybody. So it's a mixed thing. But me being there directly in the favela, working with them, speaking about what we're doing, listening to what they want, I have a lot of girls coming up to me, and I was wondering, why are they coming? And they all came to practice their English because they had heard I would speak with them, and they all okay, they told me the story, and then I was asking like, wow, okay, wow, great, like your English is really good. Where did you learn it? Yeah, I learned it via Netflix. So it's a great story. They teach themselves, and then they go for the first opportunity to really practice. And to me, that was again a very, very strong thing where I thought, wow, this is really the difference between the girls and the boys, because this is equal there. But the girls go for the opportunity. They learn English because they think this is their ticket out of the favela. Yeah. To me, that was mind blowing because I met five young girls where I thought, wow, well, just watching sitcoms and films and trying to speak English, this is their way of trying to change their life. The circumstances outside there in the favelas are horrible. We all know that. But they couldn't do that without the sports. They wouldn't be doing it if they wouldn't have that safe space. Actually, Danilo and Georgia are creating for them. So for me, this is one of the great examples how people can really make girls thrive. And now I would kind of like to build the floor for Karishma because you have an even more impressive example because let's say, your whole life is really about giving girls a chance, making sports more accessible. And that has a lot to do with the country you live in and what you yourself have experienced, and how very much you're trying to create that safe space and that supportive space that actually is being needed. And you are really using the power of sport for the good. And I find it very impressive. Whenever we speak, you have a new project, and I'm very honored you're here today, Karishma. Thank you so much. And I will now give the floor to Karishma and her great foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya, and thank you, Ansela, for having me. I'm always excited to speak with young girls because I always remember myself when I started, and I was only 18 when I started the organization. And so at 16, I became the first girl in a population of 500,000 people to play sports. And so, as you can imagine, I was made to feel like I was an outsider. I was working probably against the culture, that I was not fitting into, that I'd be a threat to the culture. And I was given two options. Now, this is where we're talking about confidence. I had two options. One option was to keep holding on to the football in my hand. And the other option was, okay, put it down and live an easy life. But I think the decision that I made was not in the moment, because in the moment I was very scared. There was a lot of difficulty for me. What I was envisioning was far ahead. I was thinking about, okay, what if I don't put down the football? If I don't put down the football, I probably, work my way out. I didn't know where I was going, but I wanted to continue, not for myself, but for the rest of the girls. Now, the second option was, if I put the football down, I would be made an example that if girls wanted to do something out of the box, this is how they're stopped. And I didn't want to be made that example, right? And so you never have a confidence, you never have the confidence or a surety when you start, but you just go, you just start. And then you find the way, you find people who support you. I mean, I've met incredible people like Tanya. I think a lot of the things that she's spoken already is something that I wanted to speak about. So she's already done that part for me. But sports, like she mentioned, I think something really important I'd like to emphasize on again is sports isn't necessarily always good, right? Sports, you have to be very intentional with sports. Competitive sports, for example, it's not always equal, right? And this is why when we're using sports for good, we have to be extremely intentional with it. And this is something that we wanted to focus on when I started the organization. I mean, I'd been a professional athlete for a long time, so I realized that sports wasn't necessarily always good. There was many times I felt discriminated against, or as a girl, I didn't feel safe because it's a very male dominant industry in Pakistan. So with our organization, we said, okay, one thing we're going to be different is use sports very intentionally, right? And we did that. And so what was the result? The result went from me being the only girl playing sports in a region, me being seen as a threat, to now we're having 700 girls just in the same place playing sports competitively, but also 1,000 girls all across Pakistan. Not only that, but eventually there's a very beautiful story of a father. I mean, eventually I'll show the video for you visuals, but we have a very beautiful story, and that is in 2018 when one of the girls that participated in 2019 actually in our activity, her father was really against it. She had to come with the support of her mother. She would hide and come to our sports event. Eventually, 5 years down the line, or it was actually 4 years down the line, she ended up playing for a local team in a local competition, and she ended up getting a sports scholarship in university to do her bachelor's degree. So soon her father realized, okay, like there is more to sports than just being, on the ground for 16 or 90 minutes. And so he actually became an advocate with us. So he would go around telling other fathers that there's so much more you can do, the girls can achieve through sports. It's not just on the ground, right? And so you have to be extremely patient through the process. And I think one thing for sure, as young leaders or as you grow up, you have to face conflicts, but you have to find a way to collaborate where you don't meet eye to eye with people. And so this is what we did with the communities where we work. We had to be extremely patient, but we also had to be a bit collaborative wherever we worked. We were not going in because we do realize that we're working in a region where girls are not allowed to properly wear shorts. So we said, okay, if girls can wear trousers and full sleeves, let them play sports. And they did. And so this is how, you create that environment where it's acceptable, it's safe for girls to play sports. And then in the long run, of course, then you're accepted and you see the results. I think I would love to show the visuals because it's very impactful to see the visuals and the work that's being done. And then, of course, I'll further talk about it. I cannot hear the video if it's only me.
Sorry, you didn't hear the video?
Yes, without the...
I will try one more time. I'm really sorry for this.
Girls grow up watching life from the sidelines, told that sports, space, and even movement are not for them. But what happens when one girl dares to step onto the field? That's where our story begins. The Karishma Ali Foundation was born from one girl's dream to change not just her own life, but an entire system of silence. At KAF, we use sports and team-based sports to create lasting social transformation. When girls come together to play, they don't just build strength, they build teams. And in those teams, they find trust, courage, and a voice. They learn to lead, to speak up, and to stand up, not alone, but together. These teams become protective networks, challenging gender norms, creating safety, and transforming isolation into solidarity. Through football, volleyball, and table tennis, we're training girls and local coaches, integrating mental health, leadership, and life skills into every program. Our approach focuses on holistic development, nurturing both body and mind, confidence and compassion, and building sustainable, community-led models that empower girls long after the whistle blows. Over 1,000 girls and 100 coaches are already part of this movement, rewriting what it means to be a girl in Pakistan. Because at KAF, sport is not the end goal. It's the beginning of courage, the beginning of community, the beginning of change. Be part of the movement so every girl gets her turn on the field.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And I really wanted to share this because we really judge our ability a lot of the times to make a difference, right? And sometimes what we do is when we start, we're looking too far ahead at people who have already made it, and we think it's just so far. But I think if the 18-year-old me looked at the me now, I would have never believed that I could achieve it. What I did was focus on the everyday work, strongly believe in what I was, what I believed in, strongly believe in my mission. And sometimes you're alone. I was alone throughout the whole process, and still I feel like we're still alone because we're the only women-led organization that's focused on sports for development for women particularly. But we believe in our mission so much that after some time you find wonderful people that come together on the mission with you to support you. And it's not a lone journey. So I never made it through this alone by myself. I had a lot of wonderful support from different people. And so this is why it's so important that if you have a mission, stick to it. You'll find your community, you'll find your support. But most importantly, sports, especially team-based sports, we've seen wonderful stories come out of our work. Particularly, through team-based sports, is where sometimes you just have to give girls the platform and they find the solution themselves, right? You have to make them feel safe. You have to give the space. You don't necessarily find the solutions for them. They find it for themselves. So an interesting story that came out of our program, one of our programs, we also have education on, harassment, how to deal with harassment, awareness around it. And 2 years back, this group of girls came up to us and they said, "Ma'am, we have to share something with you." And I said, "Yeah, sure." And they go, "Well, 2 years ago, actually, you did this session on how should we deal with harassment and how should we show up as, in support of each other." And so one of the girls was at a religious center. She was actually being harassed by a boy. And so she told her friends, and this group of girls, they go up to that religious leader in the center and they say, "Well, this is happening. This boy is harassing our friend." But they go on to say not to make sure that she feels alone. They say he's actually causing troubles for all of us, right? And so it's such a powerful story because women standing up for themselves in a country like Pakistan is not easy. But these are a group of 17, 18-year-old that through the work we've done, through sports, have found this courage, right? So sports is really more than a game, and it's more than just physical activity. And I think as Tanya mentioned also on the individual impact sports has on people, the confidence, the teamwork. This is what I keep saying is a lot of the times women and girls are missing out actually on a lot of these skills because they do not play sports. For men, they go into workforce with a lot of these skills, not just from school, but because they played sports in streets, they played sports in their teams. So they learn the skill of being a leader, showing up as a team member, bearing loss, and that of course eventually leads to confidence, right? But girls are kept out of this. Girls are kept out of this. And this is why I keep saying when I approach companies here for support, I say, well, look, if you want a strong workforce of women, this is actually what we're trying to produce through what we're doing, right? Eventually, these girls are going to go through school, go into workforce, and you're just going to have confident leader. And we actually have facts about women CEOs and how they play team-based sports. So again, to close up in short, sports is really powerful, really powerful. I mean, there's schools, there's education, there's so many more programs that take place where I'm from. But with sports, we saw change so quickly and so massive. And the conversation was, really massive. But it is, again, because sports has a very big power. And eventually, when these girls start, doing well, the boys then somehow see them as equal. So the conversations changes, right? So the boys and the girls are now speaking about sports, and that's sort of creating that equality within communities. I don't know if you can hear me. My internet is getting really bad.
Yes, yes, we hearing you.
Perfect. So,
Perfect.
yeah, I mean, two things. One, again, sports is really, really powerful. It takes time.
We lost her, huh?
Yes, 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 unfortunately. Maybe
Sorry,
she will connect.
sorry,
Oh,
There
Karishma.
she is.
but yeah, but I'm just leaving with that, that you should have strong values for the work that you're doing, and then believe in those values and create a better world with sports.
Thank you, Karishma, and thank you, Tanya. This was so inspiring and strong messages, and your experience is really powerful. Thank you for that. Are you doing for your projects, and that you shaped a lot of communities and support girls through sport and beyond. I have some question from the audience, and first, it is, what are the main barriers preventing girls from participating in sport in countries where culture or social stigma around girls' sports exists? Maybe Karishma will start, and Tanya can also add your comments.
Thank you, Angela. So there's a few challenges. One, of course, being the cultural barriers that physical activity is not seen appropriate for girls. I think I was telling this to Tanya when I was with her in Cape Town, is when we started our project, for the first 2 years, we had to work to get the girls in a normal physical, structure. So because the culture sort of forces girls into being more humble, look down, keep your body a certain way. Also, certain part of your physical, your body are not to be shown. So they shrink, girls shrink. So it took us really a long time for us to properly teach them how to walk, run, physical motion, all of this. So culture plays a very big role. And then secondly, again, because of culture, there's no investment in women's sports, right? So there's no safe sports spaces for girls. The first time, again, when we organized a sports event, we had to walk 2 hours to find a location away from the villages that was safe enough for the girls to play, right? I mean, if we had a safe space inside the village, we wouldn't go, and probably more girls would participate. So again, there's a lack of investment, cultural barriers, like I said, mentioned, how they dress, and I think I'll let Tanya add to that.
Yeah, I can really only add to that, Karishma, because you already nailed it. I mean, I have a lot to do with water sports, and there is exactly the same thing, that for boys it is a certain, yeah, it is normal to do certain things, whereas for the girls it has a lot to do with what they can wear. Are they getting, I don't know, feedback or anything strengthening their back from their families? It's a little bit like education. If there's like nobody in your family that ever went to university, it's really hard to go there because you're not getting any references. And I have experienced that all over the world a lot with girls, because there was like no reference. There are no role models. I mean, Karishma, you are like a role model to the girls, but without you, I think, well, Pakistan it would be different, yeah, because it really needs these role models that actually do the first fight, to make something that is normal and very, yeah, very day-to-day life for the boys, also very normal and day-to-day life for the girls. This is very much, yeah, resting and being rooted in family and cultural tradition. So yeah, I can really only totally support what you said.
Yeah, I'm agreed. Thank you so much. And the second question, what approaches or programs are most effective in engaging girls in sport in conservative or stigmatized environments? Maybe as the Karishma showed in your video, it is football, yeah? And what is can be additional?
So again, thank you for the question. Wonderful question. We have to actually be very creative with this, right? And we have to be very intentional. Again, like I said, with sports, we have to be very intentional. So if there is a super conservative community and I go out there and bring the girls out, I'm actually causing more danger, right? So in communities where we realize we have age categories for different sports. So for football, it's usually aged between 8 to 18. That's where girls play football, and that's where we find it easy for them to play football, and it's more acceptable in families. Then for older girls, we usually have school programs. So in communities that extremely do not allow girls to play any sort of sport, particularly parents, we had to come up with a creative idea. We realized that the girls actually go to school. And if in school we can collaborate with the school to create sports programs, they don't have to take permission from their parents because it's during school time, right? And so we introduced table tennis, where we set up table tennis within these schools. And what we do is we train their teachers, but then we also train the girls on how to play. And it's interesting, it doesn't always have to be one or the other sports. Any sports is really, really powerful. So for our table tennis program, we have collaborated with 10 different schools where we have set up these table tennis training centers. 70%, not 70, I mean 70% of the teachers, but 100% of the girls had never played any sport. But it's really interesting how they're picking it up and how it is changing their mood. And now we're actually doing a research because we're going to increase that program to see how it's affecting their attendance in school, their attention, also other skills, right? Their participation in sports. So yeah, you have to be very creative with what sort of sports you use. We also have inter-school volleyball tournaments. What we realized is a lot of these schools have these ghost grounds that exist, but they don't do anything with it. So when we create competition and when we have somewhat money prizes involved, then suddenly, the schools, it's all about their image, right? So then they become competitive and they're like preparing their girls for the next tournament. And that actually gives them the motivation to actually allow the girls to play. So, I mean, you just have to be a bit more intentional, creative, also collaborative to actually see in the communities and what's best. Yeah, I hope that answers.
Thank you. Tanya, maybe you add something. Your example also when the girls try to learn English also was very impactful, that they combine sport and something additional of their skills.
Yeah. This is something we really see all over the world, that combination of using sports as a kind of intermediate to actually teach something or encourage to do something. I think that works very, very nicely. I just wanted to add one thing, that there is to that. I love the question, but there is no simple answer to that question, because as Karishma said, you really have to know your communities. And to share another example from Brazil, it's interesting. You are in Rio, but you are in a favela. I thought, like, okay, well, what do you do when you have a lot of time? Like, you go to one of the beautiful beaches. But what you learn when you're there, oh, this is a stupid touristy attitude you're having. So it wouldn't make sense to teach them swimming or anything, because they never leave their favela. Yeah. So it does make so much more sense to actually teach them Taekwondo or something that they can actually do within the favela. So I think concerning the sport, you always have to look what doesn't make sense for the kids and what is easily accessible. I think that you really have to have a very low barrier thing, because you already usually have so many cultural barriers, make it really easy. Yeah. And the more you can have something like you can have a workaround via the school, that's really smart. Yeah. Because the less you need permission from the people who might still culturally be against it, the better and the easier it is also for the kids actually to come. And then probably one other thing, encourage them to speak about it. I think that is something that's also really important. So this is like a spreading effect. Yeah. They need to share their experiences. They need to share what they have learned or how it has impacted their life, because they're creating more and more role models that actually then are going to influence everybody. So Karishma cannot save all Pakistan, But having now 1,000 girls that have gone through all the programs, you have a lot of other role models and they will influence their communities. So also think smart about how can you actually have a spreading effect of really bringing across how it can change the girl's life.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And the last one question, how does girls' participation in sport impact their confidence, leadership skills, and role in the community in countries where women's sports receive less support?
I think,
I would say,
sorry, yes, Tanya. Yes,
no, go ahead.
I thought it
No,
was a pattern of
no,
me
go
going
ahead.
first, but please start.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Again, to that question again, I mean, I've used examples earlier, but again, individually, when girls or anyone, I think, goes through a problem, it's not easy. But when you have a community, you gain that confidence, right? You gain that confidence. And this is what sports does. We have wonderful examples. One example is, for instance, also one of our girls where we didn't actually tell them or ask them to, but then a group of these senior girls that were part of our program since 2018, they went to the local administration and they said, well, you've been running for a long time. Why do you not have a women's football team? I never told them. They went themselves, a group of 6 girls. And he said, well, no one had come here. And they said, well, we are here now. So why don't you set up a team? And so they set up a team. And now these girls will be representing their district at, different sports events. So that is an example of confidence, right? When you know you have a community, you have a support system, you get more confident to challenge the norms, challenge the system, also see possibilities when there is no possibility and create those opportunities. So this is an example that I can give from my experience. Thank you, Tanya.
You're so welcome. And I could only additionally say that this is again heading the same direction. Try to really look into what the community especially needs or extremely lacks, and then try to encourage the girls to also do something themselves. I think one of the main things sport can actually deliver is via that confidence boost to give you the power back. Yeah, I think very often that is a very women-like thing. Yeah, because we have learned over so many decades that we are not equal, and I think giving that power back, that you really can change your communities. You can change your own life, but you can also change the life of others and of a whole community. And thinking about, okay, how can we support that? Because that then is very, very powerful. Yeah. Sometimes so much more powerful than the project that comes from outside, because it will always remain a project from outside. It is great to try and really nourish the projects that come from within, because they have a strong power for real transformation and true impact.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your answers. And thank you, both of you, Tanya and Karishma, for your experience, for your projects, for all that you're doing. It is incredible and inspiring. It is really, really big job. And we hope this discussion has inspired us to continue supporting girls and youth in sport, to create more opportunities for participation, and to help break down the barriers that still exist in many societies, unfortunately, but we will keep going and do our best. So let's keep going, and remember, every step in sport is a step toward a stronger, more equal future. Thank you so much. See you next time. Thank you all of who come together and doing together with us all projects and support us. And see you soon, I hope. Thank you so much, and see you. Stay in touch.
Thank you, and good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you too from our side. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye
Thank you.
and good evening.
Good
Bye.
evening. Bye.
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 Bye bye.
Bye.